being a part of the first marketing coaching session. My goal for this is to once a month get on here, and if anybody has any questions or issues with marketing that they wanted to discuss, have the ability to interact with the team over here at Bambiz, if it's myself or anybody else that's going to be doing these, and we can answer those questions for you. To start it off, I don't see any questions in the chat area. I do have a topic that I thought would be good to kind of discuss a little bit, but if you had something in particular that you did want to go over before I get into that, please go ahead and let me know. All right. Well, what I wanted to kind of go over with is about workshop best practices. So we have clients all over the country, and about 90% of those clients that we're working with right now who are elder law and estate planning attorneys are hosting educational workshops or seminars. And not that we've invented that process, but we see everybody doing their own thing, and we kind of understand now over the course of the last 2.5 years what's working really well as far as just the different types of workshops that people are hosting, when they're hosting them, the venues and that type of thing. So we'll kind of just run down some of those best practice features that we've seen. So the sweet spot that we've seen on our end for hosting the right amount of workshops a month for small and solo practices is about 1 to 2 events per month. What we've seen is doing those on, like, if you're just doing one, obviously doing that like the second, maybe or fourth week of the month seems to be pretty popular. If you're doing 2 of those a month, we've seen a couple different things that are very successful. One of those being 2 in the same day, so you have like a mid-afternoon and then like an early evening workshop the same day. And then some people are doing them on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that could be like a Tuesday and Thursday the same week, or that could be a Tuesday and a Thursday with staggered weeks. So maybe somebody's doing them on like week 2 and then week 4 of the month. And then on week 2, they're doing them on a Tuesday. And then week 4, they're doing them on a Thursday. And so when you're doing that, it gives you the ability to kind of see which week is performing the best and at what time, if you're doing it maybe in the mid-afternoon on one of those dates and then you're doing an evening one on the other. Or if you're doing like a Tuesday and a Tuesday, you can test out different times. So maybe you do like a mid-afternoon on the first Tuesday, and on the 4th Tuesday of the month, you try like an early evening. And then you kind of see after a month or 2 of doing that, if you're getting more registrations or a higher quality of a person at a particular time, then that's the one that you end up wanting to go with moving forward. So does anybody have any questions before I move on to the next thing about the number of workshops to host a month? Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody. And then if you have any questions, just pop on in the chat area in the window, and then I can easily unmute you so you can ask your questions, or you can just write your questions in the chat area and I can see those live and we can go over those together. So a lot of people ask, how many people should I shoot for when I'm marketing my workshop? And although all of our clients vary as far as the number of people they want, and as low as some people are doing with 5, 6, 7 people. That's all they do at their office, and that's all they can host in their conference room. And then we have some clients that are hosting over 100 at like a large ballroom at a hotel. The sweet spot seems to be around 30 registrations, and I think that's just because a lot of the firms we're working with are small and solo practices, and that's just a comfortable number that they're capable of kind of like controlling that room. So if you're looking to do this, or you have any questions about how many people should I be shooting for, I think a great place to start is that 30 number. And with the marketing that we're doing right now, that's a totally achievable number in most markets. So that's a great place to start there. We kind of addressed this a little bit earlier as far as the day of the week to host these events. And what we're finding right now is that Tuesdays and Thursdays seem to be the best days of the week to have these events, right? So if you're looking at doing them, I wouldn't do them on a Monday and I wouldn't do them on a Friday for sure. We've seen some people try to do them on Saturdays. Although that does work, it seems that the Tuesdays and Thursdays still bring a high quality registration, a high quality attendee. And you don't have to worry about doing it on the weekend. So it's a kind of a win for everybody there. And then the time of the day to host these events. So again, we kind of went over it a little bit. We were talking about the number of workshops a month to host, but the number one time for anybody to host these is somewhere between 5 and 6 p.m. in your time zone. So that seems to be the most popular. And if we're hosting, typically when we're split testing like different times, so we're split testing at PM time and we're split testing like a morning or an early afternoon time, that 5 to 6 p.m. time slot, anywhere in there, starting at 5 or starting at 6, it doesn't make a difference there, is going to be the one that fills up the fastest. So definitely keep that in mind. One of the things, and I get a lot of pushback on this all the time, like, should we provide food? And I guess years ago, and then in some circles still, when you're getting those direct mail pieces sent to your, from your office to people's homes, come for food. I actually saved one. Look at this thing. I have it somewhere here. I'll show you. Now, this isn't for an elder law or estate planning attorney. This is for a financial advisor, right? But you get this in the mail, right? Dinner is on us, right? So dinner is on us. And come to Biaggi's. And if you're familiar with Biaggi's, it's a nice Italian restaurant in the Chicago area. It's this really nice card. Talks about the person that's going to be presenting it, the food. They're hosting theirs at 6 o'clock in the evening. Limited to 40 guests, and they show a big picture of a steak dinner there. So, so should you be providing food to the people that sign up for your events? Now, when people send these out and they're talking to their direct mail marketing person, they're going to definitely tell you to provide a nice dinner for these people, right? Or a nice lunch or whatever it may be. But that's because you're competing with these, right? You're competing with everybody else that's sending out a mailer to get somebody to come and have a free steak dinner to come to your event. With what we're doing on Facebook and with online marketing in general, you're not competing with that person. As far as like just being in their physical mailbox, right? There's a lot of different ads that are being placed online. And what our goal is to get people that are actually interested in what you're providing them, right? So in our case, it's going to be some type of a presentation based on protecting the home and the savings from a nursing home, or it's going to be providing something about family estate planning or VA benefits or something along those lines, right? And so we're targeting somebody they're interested in the education. And so regardless if somebody's been hosting this at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse or a nice lunch, or even if they're providing food at a hotel ballroom, it hasn't changed the registrations up or down if they're doing it or not, right? And so we've seen people hosting them at their office, and we've seen people hosting these events at their like a library or community center or something like that. And it hasn't changed the cost per registration at all one way or the other. So if it's me doing this, if I was going to be in your shoes and I was hosting my own estate planning or elder law event, I'm going to provide light refreshments, so maybe some tea, some water, that type of thing, maybe some like light snacks just as a benefit. But I'm not going to provide a whole meal because it's not necessary. You don't need to do that. As far as the venue selection, just like what we just talked about, you don't need to worry about an expensive venue to get the quality people to come on in and register for these events, attend these events. So if the most popular places we've seen where people have had great success tend to be like the library or community centers in your local area. And then also, if you are able to, some people do have connections to restaurants. I know I just talked about you don't need food, but sometimes you can actually get like a local a local restaurant, not like a big chain or a fancy steakhouse that has an extra room. And then for like a very minimal amount of money, you know, they will provide that light refreshments and like maybe like a plated appetizer thing, and you can use that at like on an off time, right? Because like a lot of restaurants on Tuesdays and Thursdays, those aren't the busiest nights of the week, especially on Tuesdays. So you might be able to work out a deal with them to get a great venue at a great price, or for free, just by paying for those light refreshments there. And then the number one thing that you need to keep in mind when you are doing these venue selections is going to be accessibility, right? And so a lot of the people that we're targeting are seniors, and their mobility might not be as great as some younger people, honestly, right? So having these events in a multi-story building where they have to climb stairs and get in elevators or do whatever, right, is going to deter them from actually attending the event. So you don't want to do that. You also want to make sure that there's a decent amount of parking, right? We've seen people that try to do some of these events in some urban areas where they actually have to park on the street or park like 2 or 3 blocks away and then like walk their way over. You lose people during that, right? And so our goal is to make it as easy as for them as possible to get from point A to point B, which is your event. So I know we're kind of going over a lot there. I've covered, you know, a lot of different aspects of planning for a productive workshop. Does anybody have any questions at all about anything before we kind of move on to the next steps there? Because yeah, our goal for these marketing coaching events is going to be just to kind of work with you guys, get feedback from you, so that we, you know, we can answer questions that are important to you. So I hope this has kind of been beneficial. Kind of keep going here. Then if you have any questions, just throw them in the chat. One of the other popular questions we get with best practices for hosting workshops is regarding like the time of the year, right? So it's summertime right now. Is this a decent time to host workshops? The answer to that question is yes, it's a great time to host workshops. In fact, we just had one of our most successful workshops for one of our clients in Kentucky, period. I mean, ever. And that event's on July the 11th, I think is when he's hosting that event, right? So people are still registering for these all the time. Even the course of the year, like for the past 2.5 years, I've been tracking to see you know, if there's a significant increase or decrease in the number of registrations depending on the time of the year. And we haven't seen it. The averages stay about the average nationwide, right? So you might see it tick up a little bit, you might see it tick down a little bit, but nationwide there's not a significant drop off or anything like that depending on the time of the year. The only thing that we recommend is obviously, like, I'm not going to host an event, you know, July 4th, 5th, 3rd, something like that, right? Because it's a holiday. But I mean, there's plenty of, even in November and December when you have the Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and everything like that, those months still have a successful turnout for these events as long as you're doing them, you know, a couple of weeks away. So the first part of November, the first part of December, those have been great for as far as workshops go. Also, it's a great way to change up a little bit of the marketing and how you work those workshops when you're talking about, you know, hey, the new year's coming along. Hey, we're doing this particular thing for you now so you can set up for next year. So it's actually almost been sometimes better for some of our clients during the traditional slow times of the year because it's just the way you kind of tweak that message. But people are still online. They're still looking at pictures of their grandkids. They're, you know, they want to see what people are doing for the holidays, what they're doing for summer vacation, what they're doing for all this. And they're online doing that, and that's why we're able to pull those people from those activities and get them to look at what you're doing, register for your events, and come in there. So the time of the year does not matter for these workshops. Now, the number one thing that I get a lot of pushback for is the following up with the registrants, right? And so as a marketing agency, there's only so many variables that we are able to control. And the things that we're able to control is the messaging, the creative, which would be like the videos. We can control the images. We can test out the different, you know, the videos on the landing pages, what the text looks like, and all this stuff to get as many people to see the message, to click or interact with the message, to provide you with their information so they're attending your events or downloading your materials or whatever that is. So now they're a part of your world. right? And we can control that. We can also send them emails, right? So we can send them a confirmation email following up with that person saying, hey, thank you so much for making a registration for the event. Here's a little ticket to the event that you can print out and bring with you, or whatever that may be. And so that's a valuable resource as well. But there's nothing like getting on the phone with somebody and talking with them. Just like while you're on this call right now, right? Getting my email, every week is one thing, but actually being able to interact with me on a personal level will give you a different opinion of Bambiz, right? Of who I am and that type of thing. So it's definitely very valuable for you to either, depending on if you're a small or solo firm, have somebody, even if it's yourself, right? When you see a notification come through the system, get somebody on the phone as soon as possible. And I like to joke around and say, if it's me, right? And so if somebody is going to register for my event, I'm going to get on the phone with that person as soon as possible. Like if it's like 5 minutes or 3 minutes, I'm going to call that person and say, hey, thank you so much for making that registration. We're looking forward to having you attend the event. We're saving your spot. Did you have any questions for me at all that you wanted me to go over at the event? Okay, great. I'll write that down. That way we're prepared for you to be there. We're excited. If anything changes, let us know and get off the phone with that person. And then at the minimum, right, you call them as soon as you possibly could. At the minimum, call that person again the day of or the day before the event. And if it's me again, I'm going to do another one, right? Because you can't have too many touches, is what we call that in the marketing world. You could call them in the middle again and say, hey, we're just confirming our room, making sure it's big enough for everybody. Are you going to be there? Great. If they didn't have a question, ask them again. Did you have any questions? Get that information from them. Get them excited. Tell them you're excited for them to be there. And then that way, the more times you reach out to that person, the more times you have contact with a person, the more likely they are going to actually attend that event. Now, just like any other type of live event, there's going to be a percentage of people that don't show up to your event. And that doesn't, if you're doing all the follow-ups, hopefully that percentage is low. Hopefully that percentage is only, 5-10% of the people aren't showing up if you're doing all those follow-ups. But still, that's a good chunk of people that are qualified people that signed up for your workshop that didn't attend, right? And it's not probably because they just don't want to attend, right? Something came up, their car broke down, the weather was bad, they got another call from a family member and they can't come, whatever it may be, right? Or they simply forgot. They just totally slipped their mind and they didn't attend. We have clients that we've been working with now for 2 years plus that get more people coming to their workshops than actually are signing up through our marketing because they're previous no-shows. So their staff is trained to call that list of no-shows. They make a running list of no-shows, and before each new event comes on, their staff is on the phone with those people. They're calling up those previous no-shows and they're saying, hey, we're doing this again. We know you are interested in this event. We're hosting it again. We'd love to see you there. And they get people that still sign up for these events. They get the no-shows to attend. And if somebody's not interested anymore, they're going to tell you. They're going to say, hey, you know what? I found somebody else to do this. I'm not interested anymore. Whatever it is, take me off your list or don't call me again or whatever, right? And that's fine. You can just mark them, take them off your list or whatever. And you're not violating any rules or anything because they had already initiated the contact with you and told you that they wanted to come to your event. So you're doing them a disservice by forgetting about them. So definitely follow up with those no-shows and get them to, show up, because you'll get, over time, that list will get big and you'll end up having 50% of the room or so of the people. You can fill half the room before your marketing even starts because you're following up with the no-shows. You've already spent the marketing dollars on those people, so you might as well utilize that marketing result and get them to actually show up for your events. So I know we went over a lot there as well, and put your information into the chat there if you have questions about anything that we've already covered. Put them in there. I am recording this right now, so we'll have a replay of this that we'll also send out to everybody in the email. So let's see. Finally, if there's no questions, wanted to go over a couple more things. Getting the workshops, the best practices we've seen of getting people from your workshop signed up into a consultation, right? And so all of our clients have different skills, right? And some of them are better at sales than others. And what we've seen, and my background is in sales. I used to obviously I'm not an attorney, right? But I used to have to run live events and get people signed up for products and services, right? And so one of the ways that we used to do that, and that I've trained a lot of attorneys to work their seminars this way, is to pre-frame the crowd that they're already signed up for a consultation. So kind of the way that this works, it's kind of an interesting concept. So you get the people into the room, and you basically are starting off your workshop by saying, there's only so much we can cover here, right? There's only so much we can cover here. We can't go over everybody's unique situations. We'd love to do that, but that's why we're offering each of you a complimentary consultation or whatever that may be. Some people do charge a small fee for that. So you let them know that. And you say, it gets really awkward sometimes when at the end of this workshop, everybody's lined up and there's only one or two of us here in the room, and it's, we can't get everybody's time down. It gets a little hectic. So we've been able to fix that problem by about 20 or 30 minutes before we're over with this presentation. We're actually going to have our assistant, myself, whoever it may be, go through the room to make sure that we can schedule each one of you for that consultation. So at the end of this workshop, you don't have to worry about getting in line or anything like that. You can just, if you have any questions, you can stay and ask those, and you can casually leave, and it's a lot more, it's just a lot more easy for everybody. And then you kind of just go right into your presentation from that point. And what that does is they're already sitting in the chair and they're thinking, okay, yeah, I really, I'm doing this consultation because that's why I'm here, duh. And typically the presentations go with content, and then they go with like a Q&A session, or maybe they go into some examples or something. So wherever that natural split would have been in your presentation from content to Q&A or content to whatever, you would just make that transition into, now we're going to go through and we're going to schedule everybody. You just go through everybody in the audience. You get yourself and your staff or whoever it may be to take the clipboard around, or the iPad or computer, or however you want to do it, and get everybody scheduled. And then you go, as soon as that's done, you make that really smooth, and then you finish out the workshop. Typically, I would say before you make that transition, so if you're doing content, do a couple of good testimonials or stories right before you make that transition into getting people signed up for the consultation. Because when they hear those stories, what they're going to do is they're going to think, that's just like me and my family, and it'll get them a lot more relaxed and ready to make that consultation appointment with you. So I hope that helps with getting more people into a consultation. I know that that's been a very successful way for some of the other clients that we've worked with to increase their workshop attendance rate into booked consultations. And then obviously, your own numbers, if you can get them into a consultation, what your close rate is and that type of thing. So any questions about any of that? We've got about 3 more minutes here for this session. Awesome. Well, I don't have too much else. That's pretty much everything that I had on my list to cover in case there was no questions. But that entire process that we just talked about, from going over how to set up your workshop, how many times a month to do it, how many people that you should have, when to host it, should I have food or not have food, how do I follow up with people, how do I get people into consultations, those are all like the main questions we get, especially from firms that have never done this before. Maybe they've only done it once, or maybe they partnered with like a financial advisor or somebody else that has been doing these like on their behalf, and then they were like a guest speaker. And so this kind of hopefully will walk you through how to do that yourself and how you can have a successful workshop, and you don't have to worry about all of the learning, right? Because we've already seen what is successful, and that you can start 10 steps ahead of where your competition is going to be starting because you're following this guide plan, this roadmap. And basically, month after month, if you create this type of a workshop marketing, and you do this month after month after month after month, I mean, I know we have lots of clients. We've worked with people on a consistent basis for over 2.5 years now. And they've done this month after month after month for over 2.5 years. And they've gone from doing it at like 1 location to 4+ locations, and they're all packing them out. So with workshops, they've grown from a single, solo. I've seen solo practices grow to, having multiple partners. And obviously, you guys know your numbers. So if you can fill a room with 30 people, 40 people, even 10 people, and you're doing that month after month, it can definitely be very beneficial marketing. Describe how you market to get attendees. Yeah, I've got a few more minutes before this thing will kick me off of here. It's kind of testing this technology out. So how we market to get attendees. Well, we do that a couple different ways. Our goal is to attract people with the right message, right? And so we're attracting qualified people with messaging that's going to relate to them being qualified. So to target somebody and get a qualified attendee, we go after the audience information, which is going to be very similar to like the kind of information that a direct mailer piece would say. Like, we want to have somebody over this particular age, we want to have somebody in this location, we want to have somebody that has what we think has a particular amount of assets or home or whatever it may be, right? And then we're throwing at them a message that's going to relate to where they're at. So, do you know somebody that's, do you want to save your home and from the high cost of long-term care or nursing home cost or whatever it may be, right? And so the messaging of the ad is going to relate to the type of person that we're targeting. And then we use different profiles to test out different messages. It's probably a whole entire another marketing coaching session on that type of on how exactly that happens. But basically, when we put those different messages out there and target them to particular people, we track and see who's clicking on what and who's going to what particular registration page, and then we can see what's working and what's not working. And then when people do make their registrations, we can see that. So I don't know if that necessarily answered your question. I could probably talk about that for hours and hours and hours on like the step-by-step process on how we're targeting and getting those attendees there. But it's just a combination between data profiles that we've accumulated since we've been marketing to this audience, the copy, the advertising copy, testing out different things. Like, our registration pages are not the prettiest registration pages in the entire world, but we've tested those out against ones that are a lot better looking. And what we've ended up doing is seeing that like sometimes like the prettier registration pages don't get as many registrations as some of the other ones. And so we go back to what's always working the best. So it's just a lot of testing, ad copy, targeting the right person at the right time with the right message. Anybody else have any questions for me? Well, I do appreciate everybody for getting on here. I've seen some people kind of come on and come off as their schedule allows. My goal is to start doing this once a month. I'll try to, if I continue doing this, I'll try to have like a topic like we did today. It's kind of like a backup topic. And then what we'll do is we'll hopefully grab, my goal is I would like to start doing these where you guys are bringing questions, we're answering those questions, we're digging deep into like some of the marketing challenges that you're having at your firm, we're going over those together, and that way you can kind of walk out of these coaching sessions with a game plan on how you can continue to grow your practice and your marketing. Awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end this off. I appreciate everybody for being on here, and I look forward to having you on another marketing coaching session in the future. Thank you.